This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
You've tuned into I Work for Him, the voice and collaboration for the Faith and Work movement.
We are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to transform the workplace of every Christian into a mission field. What does that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now.
Since I was a little kid, most of America has known that the South Side of Chicago has been a pretty rough and tumble area with high crime and lots of poverty. A lot of government programs just not working all in one place. Jim Croce even wrote a song about the South Side of Chicago in 1973 being the baddest part of town. Well, 51 years later, the South Side of Chicago is still an area that is in dire need of help. But in spite of all the negative publicity, God is on the move on the South Side. In 2017, we covered a story from the Woodlawn neighborhood about Hope Works Chicago. Today, we head back to the South Side where God is on the move more than ever before. Quilen and Hannah Blackwell moved to the South Side with intentionality. Intentionality to bring jobs, healing, hope for transforming lives and rebuilding neighborhoods. Talk about putting your faith into your work. Quilen and Hannah are on fire for Jesus and passionate about their neighborhood. Quilen and Hannah, welcome to I Work for Him.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Quilen and Hannah, we want to hear your Jesus story first. So, Hannah, ladies first, tell us your Jesus story.
So I actually grew up in a strong Christian home. My mom was a daughter of missionaries, is the daughter of missionaries, and got to know, Jesus at an early age. It was really a big part of my parents' marriage. I remember accepting Jesus in my heart, watching a thunderstorm, sitting on top of my car, which is what you do in Kansas when you live out in the country. So from there, I built on that. And I never felt like I left my faith for a period. It was always just really important part of who I was and who I am. And really led me to, what I'm doing today, and always looked really different, but it was probably in high school when I really latched on to the verse that talked about all of the words of the prophets and the basically all the writing up till Jesus' time hung on loving God and loving your neighbor. And I just felt like that I really connected with that. And I felt like if that really sums up the Bible, then that's what my life needs to be about. And so from there on out, it looked really different. I did submissions after high school in Northern Ireland. I moved to Chicago. I did, worked at a church. I went to Bible college, and I'm doing this. So it's always looked really different, but it's really the core of, I feel like, who I am, but also what I feel like God has called me to do.
And Quilen, how about you? What is your Jesus story?
Yeah, so I did none of that. Growing up, I was pretty agnostic. Did not grow up in the church whatsoever. I was the kind of guy who would slam the door in the face of missionaries coming passing out tracts just for fun. I really had zero interest in God or anything like that. It really wasn't until I was 17 when my mom was sick and, God healed her miraculously that I became interested in Jesus. And when I did finally give my life to Christ at 18, for me, it was really more about, okay, God, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all the way, So I fought him my entire childhood. There's just something about just seeing, the tangible work of God in my mom's life that, really brought me to faith. And, ever since then, I've kept that vow that, no matter what I do, I'm going to never quit. I'm going to give it 100%. Coming in early, the faith as, I guess, an adult, I really felt insecure about the fact that everyone around me, went to, Sunday school. They knew all these songs and all the Bible stories. So, the competitive side of me really, kind of got churned up, and I just kind of went to the Word and started reading it for myself. I was like, okay, let me try to see what the Bible says. Let me try to figure out these stories. And, that really has been, one of the key ways that I've really grown my faith is just really learning the Word of God, just by reading the scriptures as they are. And then I end up discovering there's a lot of things in there that, people don't always preach about on Sunday. So
a lot of those inconvenient truths is what we like to call them, Quilen.
Oh, you know what? I love that because honestly, there are so many things that somebody that grew up in a Christian home, we really take for granted that like everybody's going to be up to speed on, automatically. And I love that you dug in yourself and just said, I'm going to learn this and see for myself. And you're not the first person who has actually said to us, hey, I saw a lot more in there than what I'm hearing about. So we'll share some of those favorite stories with you off the air, but our listeners have heard them quite often. So
like one of them, let's just soapbox for a minute. What are some of the things we never hear from the pulpit? Husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church, long before it says, and wives, submit to your husbands. Yeah, that's a sermon, don't you? Fact that Jesus was a business owner before he was an itinerant preacher. Yep, never heard that sermon. Abraham's corporation was so big, he had 300 armed guards. Yep, never hear about Abraham as a business guy.
Okay, we know time is limited.
Okay.
So I'm going to go.
You and Jim got a lot in common.
Yes, most definitely. And I know that this could go on for quite a while. But the truth is, and this is, really, we joke about it, but the truth is we need to read our scriptures, right?
Amen.
And we need to look at them through the lens of who we are today and where God has placed us, which is why we have the show, I Work for Him. Because we're seeing where God has placed missionaries in their work, fully funded, doing the work that they're good at, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show when we talk about what you guys are doing at Southside Blooms. But Hannah, I think I'm going to throw this one to you. Tell us your love story. Where did your lives intersect that led you to today?
So I'm glad I get to share this because we have a little different view of how our first meeting went. And I have proof that I'm right.
Well, of course you do.
But so I had moved to the west side of Chicago, a similar situation, the south side. I felt I'd been living in Chicago for many years, and I really felt like, I needed to put my money where my mouth was. If I really cared about sort of the segregation of the city and the poverty, I needed to move in to understand it, for myself at a relational level. So I moved to the west side. I'd been living there a couple of years. And I went to a wedding in Tulsa, and my original ride fell through. So I rode back with the groom's, bunch of the groom's friends. So it's like 11-hour ride. So you just have to talk about everything because it's just like so much time together. And I was talking about why I was on the west side, and unbeknownst to me, one of the guys was texting Quilen, hey, I met a girl that I think you would, have a lot in common with. But of course, to me, all he said was, hey, I have this friend and he's doing, work in Inglewood. And, essentially, maybe you guys could talk about your similar work together. I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. So they connected us via email, and I suggested a place to meet up. And I just went after church. I had my church frock on because I would walk to church, and I would wear kind of loose clothes because I would get a lot of cat calls on the way. And I had my hair in a bun. I had these really goofy blue glasses. I wasn't in no way, it was not in my mind at all that this was some sort of blind date, which is what he likes to call it. But
Gotcha.
So we met up at this place, and Quilen's a pretty intense guy. I mean, we're trying to walk around, and he's like, so this is your life mission, right? This is your life.
As Quilen sits there being completely silent, letting you tell the story, but you're the intense one, Quilen. I want to note it for the audience. So if you're not watching the video, seriously, go to our YouTube channel, I Work for Him, and check out this video.
Learn how to compose myself.
Marriage is political, he's, just playing politics here. So we finally I'm like, we need to sit down because this is we're walking in single file and I'm trying to answer his questions. And he's like, this is your life mission, right? This is your. So anyway, we sat down on a bench. We ended up talking for a couple hours. We had really good connection. Obviously, we talked about our different work and our passion and our mission. And then he asked me out to dinner. I kind of was like, let's be friends. Because in my mind, I was thinking, let's be friends for a little while before if we would date. And in his mind, he's thinking, I'm not wasting time. So then he was ready to go and get out of there. And then in the days afterwards, I had to think of all these reasons to email him. And because I was like, oh no, I think he's not,
you're losing me.
He's out of here. I'm like, that's not how it was, going to play out in my brain. But anyway, we did meet up again. We talked all night and got engaged 6 months later. So
And been married for how long?
9 years as of this past Friday.
Friday's our anniversary.
Wow. Well, congratulations. All right. Now, we love the love story. Next time we're letting Quilen tell his side of the story, since he totally showed you respect during all that. All right. Quilen, here's the deal. In some inner city neighborhoods, people are planting vegetables on vacant lots. But you two decided to plant flowers. Where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so, our whole mission is to use sustainability to alleviate poverty in the inner city. So, from the very beginning, we were looking for a way to really bring industry into the South Side, because, when we're surveying it, that's one of the things that became pretty obvious. There's not an anchor industry, right? When you think of like Silicon Valley, you think of tech, you think of Napa Valley, you think of like the wine and the vineyards. When you think of the inner city, there's nothing, right? Other than like maybe like the dark economy and that kind of thing. So, there's, for those of you who aren't familiar with Chicago, there's about 30 to 50,000 vacant lots that are predominantly located on the south and west sides of the city.
Whoa. Don't say stuff like that so fast. You are kidding me. 30 to 50,000 vacant lots.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of empty space. That adds up to about almost 5,000 acres of vacant land, just in the city proper.
Wow.
So you're seeing all this vacant land, you see these dilapidated buildings, you see the youth who need something to do. So we were looking at agricultural solutions. Okay, well, what can we grow here? We did look at food at first. However, the economics didn't really make sense. The big story of that is really competing with big ag as a small farmer just is not a viable strategy when you're, trying to work with nothing like we were. So we landed on flowers because flowers is about $35 billion a year industry, but 80% of the flowers that you see in this country actually come from overseas. So there isn't like a big flower industry that we have to really compete against. And most of the money in flowers, is being spent in big cities like Chicago. So it just seemed like a natural fit where if we grew flowers, it's something that other people weren't doing. So we wouldn't have a lot of competition. It's something that we figure our youth could be good at because a lot of our youth are artistic, and floristry is inherently an artistic endeavor. Mm-hmm. And there's real money in it. So it's something that could really grow beyond just, supporting a small business and a few jobs, because we really wanted to try to pursue something that could be a game changer.
Wow. I love that. Having a business like Southside Florist takes a lot of coordination, and I can imagine that our guests rely heavily on their computers to keep track of everything. That's why we believe that the services provided by SaferNet are so important to our listeners. SaferNet VPN is working behind the scenes to protect our data, keep out the bad guys, and filter things we don't need to see on our computers. At our work firm, we believe every home and business should be protecting their computers so they can keep running their businesses, as well as protect the hearts of their loved ones from perpetrators trying to destroy hearts and minds. Trust SaferNet. Go to safernet.com and tell them that I work for him sent you.
All right. So Southside Blooms is a business that's operated by you two under the winds of Chicago Eco House. What is Chicago Eco House all about? And I just want to say, for those not watching the video, they are donning their T-shirts.
Yeah, so Chicago Eco House is the sort of the nonprofit umbrella of our organization. So, it's the farm side. So we do our own farming. We have about 10 acres of vacant land that we've converted into solar-powered flower farms. That's providing.
How many empty lots is 10 acres?
It adds up to, I think it's like in total, it's about 12 lots that we have. Some of the lots are bigger than others, mm-hmm. obviously. So, we basically, we take these lots, we turn them into farms, we hire youth to work the farms, and then we will process those flowers in our in-house flower shop, Southside Blooms, which is also staffed by youth. So we're a vertically integrated farmer florist. And we deliver all our own flowers, as well as we just recently started shipping our flowers nationally. So
I made sure to tell Jim that. I said, you do know, right, that they now are shipping flowers all across the nation. So I'm just going to put this little plug in.
So why do you think she would bring that up? Why do you think she would bring that up 5 days before her birthday, or, 17 days before our wedding anniversary. I just can't. Why? Why is she doing
My woman.
Why is she doing
I just might say I've checked out the website, and I want to encourage all of our listeners to do the same. We'll have the link in the show notes. But man, you guys are doing such great stuff. And yes, we're talking about the mission and the philosophy and all that you are accomplishing, but you're doing it with excellence. And, that is something that really sets you apart. So the website is southsideblooms.com. Super simple. Anybody can go there, check it out, and shop away.
Hannah, I want to know this. How can running a florist business on the south side of Chicago help transform lives?
So, there's a lot of reasons that we've seen flowers, bring about life. And I feel like when we moved here and we did a lot of research and we just tried to become a part of the neighborhood. And even when I was over on the west side, you just tell that the poverty was really at the base of so many of the issues that was going on. And so we just felt like if we can sort of attack the poverty and give people that ability to meet their needs and to have what they need, they're going to be able to breathe, and they're going to be able to think about everything else that they want to accomplish and do and stabilize their family. So, at the base, just being able to provide some money and, helping people sustain their lives, that is going to relieve the stress, on the first layer. Second, just working with something beautiful, being out in the flower farm, being in the flower shop, you're around beauty, around stuff that smells really good, and you're creating beautiful pieces for really significant moments when people make a bridal bouquet and then they're able to deliver it with us to the venue and hand it over to the bride and know that this is, a really special moment in her life. That's transformative. You feel like you belong. We have these organizations around that they'll do tours downtown with youth, from the neighborhood, but it's kind of empty. They don't give this bridge to participate in those places. It's just kind of, hey, this is cool, and now you're going to go back, and I'm not going to show you any way to connect with, these other beautiful, affluent parts of the city. But, when we're giving them a role, and we're bringing them along and helping them to be, have some belonging there, it's a very different experience for them. They can feel like, I'm contributing, I'm a part of this, I belong here. Mm-hmm. And then we've seen that, go back into their own confidence about themselves, right. About what they can do. And these are young people, they need that encouragement. They need somebody to be like, hey, you're awesome. Look at this skill you have. Look at what you're doing. So that they can start believing that in themselves, and that it can really be a foundation that they can build on for the rest of their life.
It is so huge in the fact that you are building, you're giving them confidence that leads to, less stress because they get money. Is it just a job, or is it Jesus too?
Oh, no. This is 100% Jesus. So this is a common question we get. Like, people are like, well, you're doing all these good works, you're creating jobs, et cetera, but what about the gospel, right? And for us, this is really an evangelistic ministry. Like it says in the good word, it's the goodness of God that draws men to repentance. And that's what this is really about. It's about first showing God's goodness to people. And that's one of the misconceptions that people have of our community. Like, a lot of people already know the gospel, mm-hmm. Like there's this assumption that just because you're poor and you're down and out, that you somehow, aren't Christian, or you somehow don't know the gospels. Like, a lot of people here already are believers. They just don't see how God's showing up in their life, So people kind of walked away. So there's a lot of people kind of backslid because they're like, okay, well, my grandma went to church or my mom went to church, but like, what did that do for us, right? So we've actually seen a lot of people's faith get restored and inspired again because, they're seeing the goodness of God. They're seeing God show up in a way and in a place where people thought that, let's just be honest, people just sort of thought it was like a godforsaken place. But here, here's this miracle of a flower shop that's creating an oasis in the desert, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredible. And, as we're really continuing on the conversation, do we have you back yet? Okay. Yes. All right. When you look at the gospel, it's all of the gospel. Jesus came to set the captives free, and poverty is like it's like captivity for people. And the jobs, you're giving people the freedom to flourish again in an area that hasn't seen a lot of flourishing. And it's so powerful to be able to see that. But how you've created, so you're taking all these empty lots and you've got flower farms on them. And if you haven't been in Chicago, some of you listening haven't been to Chicago, in the wintertime, it's a miserable, terrible place to be. It's known as the Windy City because it is windy, but also because of its politicians. But it's a cold, damp place. Quilen, just look up your history and just so you know, Mayor Daley's the one that named it anyway. But how is creating all these jobs going to help rebuild these neighborhoods so that it attracts other businesses back into town, so that it's not a food desert anymore? I mean, you're eliminating the flower desert. How is this going to help eliminate the food desert area?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually something that people criticized us on in the beginning. You know, people are like, okay, you're trying to grow flowers, but it's a food desert. You can't eat a flower, right? You know, but like kind of going back to the idea of this being an anchor industry, right? If you have an anchor industry, then you have trailing industries that will support it, right? So, you know, looking at tech in Silicon Valley, because tech is thriving there as that primary industry, that means trailing industries like housing can now thrive, right? You know, retail, restaurants, movies, etc. Because people now have disposable income that they're getting from those, you know, good paying jobs at tech to spend on these other sectors of the economy. So that's the way we're looking at it is, okay, flowers, which is bringing in, you know, a good amount of money. And just so your viewers know, like, you know, within 10 years, we went from $0 to $2 million, you know, so we're definitely gaining a lot of traction where we have a lot of growth. You know, we currently have almost 60 people on our total payroll.
Amazing.
So, you know, the organization is growing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Hang on, you're doing that fast.
Celebrating here.
60 people on your payroll, which means you're blessing 60 families, and those 60 families are blessing their neighborhoods.
Exactly.
That's right.
Monstrous. That is, it's fantastic. God is doing such incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. You know, so now those are people who are now spending more money at the local restaurants, right? That's supporting those businesses. So yeah, this is how people are able to address the food desert issue. Because if you have more money in your pocket, then hey, you want to go shop at Whole Foods, you want to go shop at Aldi, wherever, you can do that. You have agency, right? You have freedom. Whereas, you know, I mean, not to like I guess get into maybe some political stuff here, but you know, like you look at say food stamps and stuff, like it really does control where you can eat, right? What you can buy. But, you know, in this case, you know, you basically are, you know, you're learning how to work. You're learning how to add real value to the community, add real value to the marketplace. And now you can go and you can decide to live wherever you want. You can decide to eat whatever you want. You don't have to, you know, live within the restrictions of a government program, which a lot of our families find very free.
And I love the fact that you did the research to find an industry that was a thriving industry that wasn't marginal. That Chicago has a high demand for flowers, right? So very smart.
And apparently Marionville, Missouri does as well.
Apparently now it does, right? And the fact that you're not asking your neighbors don't have to be the ones to buy your product in order for it to survive. So I think there's some brilliance there too. They may then get some income so that they can spend it on different things. So I just think it's a brilliant thing to be celebrated. You know, in John 10:10, Jesus said that he came to give life and give it more abundantly. And Jim, today's guests are showing others how to have abundant life right in their own neighborhoods. And if you're looking for how God wants you to act on your faith, check out the I Work For Him Nation. You can find that on our website at iworkforhim.com/join the nation to find some simple steps to help you become a workplace missionary and show others around you abundant life.
All right. So, Hannah, the south side of Chicago is still a troubled area. You guys decided, you and Quilen decided to move into that area and have your family live there and grow up there. What kind of sacrifice has that been for you two?
So, like you kind of mentioned, that was an intentional thing for us. We knew that, you know, if we didn't sort of commit our lives, commit our families, show that we trusted God in that way, it was going to be hard for people around us to really take us serious. And also it wasn't going to send the right message to our kids someday. We knew that, you know, we wanted our kids to live on mission, and we knew that if it was just something we said but didn't show it with our lives, that it would be, kind of empty. And so when we first moved in, it was definitely some very, trying times with issues on the block in the neighborhood.
There are a lot of shootings. A lot of shootings.
I mean, we were looking for our houses to buy, and we walked down a block, and as we look back, we watched a drive-by shooting happen. We had just been there. And so, it was very real, but it was also a way that reminded us why we were there. Mm-hmm. And it was something that would continue to remind us. So, if you're not kind of faced with it every day, and we're still faced with what the youth go through, and it pushes us every day to not give up, to continue to be here. Jesus was sent, was God incarnate. He was sent to walk among the hurting and to sort of be there as a human. And I feel like in the same way, we need to be amongst it to really continue to pray for it, to continue to, show Jesus in the way that we can.
Go ahead. If I could just quickly add to it, I think looking back on it, I see it less as a sacrifice and more as an investment. It definitely was harder in those first days, but I also think because we didn't really understand what God was trying to do, like it says in the good word, his thoughts on our thoughts and his ways on our ways. Mm-hmm. Because, really it set us up as a family to be more resilient, more autonomous. And frankly, I was thankful that we said yes to God and came to the hood when COVID hit. And, we were able to pull our kids out to school. We didn't have to be forced to do things we didn't want to do because we're working for, a corporate employer or that kind of deal. And that's when I really became thankful. I was like, okay, in the beginning, it did feel like, okay, God, I'm having to give up a lot of these, let's be honest, worldly comforts, right? And it's well, what am I getting in return? As I'm just going to do this for you, but then you fast forward 10 years and you see some of the things that we've been through as a society. And it's really been setting us up for success. And it's okay, God, I see what you were doing. Right. This was really more of an investment. Now it's starting to pay off. Nowadays, we're able to run our ministry and homeschool at the same time. I mean, it's a huge blessing to be able to spend almost all day with our kids. They're in the business. We're able to teach them in real time. I mean, this is massive, Yes. I look at my brother. He works for the post. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to switch that around. So what do you then see as being the impact of you living in your neighborhood? How is it impacting your neighborhood by having your family right there?
Okay. Yeah, so I think just, I feel early on too, it really helped them to believe that we were there for the right, for them. Yeah. It wasn't just hey, we're going to come in and work and then leave again, or we're going to have our own little life outside of you guys, right. And we're outsiders, obviously, and you look at me and I don't match everybody else, but even Quilen grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. There's no inner city there.
Wait a minute. Oh, I should have asked this question. You're a cheesehead? Sorry, we don't allow cheeseheads. We don't allow cheeseheads on our work frame. Sorry, this conversation is done right now. I should have asked that ahead of time. You're from Kansas and he's from Wisconsin? Okay. But seriously, when you look at the impact that your marriage and your kids are having on your street, have you seen a change? Have you guys been able to impact the culture on your street?
Yes. Yeah. So, we employ some of the youth who live on our block. As a matter of fact, just share a quick little story. There's this young man named Deontay who works for us. His mom, actually, when we first moved on the block, she was part of the block club that we helped to organize. And, as the organization has grown, we were able to get to a place where we were able to hire her son at a time when he needed a job. He kind of got caught up in the gang life. He was in jail for 6 months and, things weren't looking very good for him. So, it's been a refuge for her family and for him. And now we hired her, her sister or her daughter as well. So, we're able to actually employ people right here on our block because of the work that we're doing and because of, us basically just saying yes to God and sticking with it. And, it's even going beyond our block, right? We're in 4 different neighborhoods at this point on both the south and west side of Chicago. We're actually in the process of opening up a second flower shop on the west side. So this is really just growing and expanding. so that we can reach more families and touch more lives. And it's gotten a lot more peaceful in our neighborhood. Like, it's actually been a long time since we've actually had shootings on our block. I really contribute that to really just prayer, and I really look at that more as a spiritual issue. You can live in a very, well-to-do neighborhood and still have shootings that could happen. So I look at that as just like that prayer covering, right? Well, Anna and I every morning we have devotion. We're always praying for people. We fast, right? So don't discount that spiritual component.
Well, your very presence on that street has made an impact. That's what I was getting for. I didn't know the answer, but I had a feeling, because the two of you are living there, that your presence and Jesus in you through the power of the Holy Spirit is impacting your neighborhood. And everybody listening, understand that's your role in your neighborhood too. No matter where you don't have to live in the south side of Chicago to impact your neighborhood or your homeowners association or your townhouse or the apartment complex. You can be that impactor. All right, final question. Well, maybe. You two are missionpreneurs. You're entrepreneurs on a mission. Is there room for more Jesus followers to join you in the mission on the South Side?
Yes, totally, 100%. So, we're looking to grow. So, if you're in a community that's similar to Chicago, you're Detroit, St. Louis, whatever, definitely reach out to us, because we are looking for new communities to expand into, new cities to expand into. Of course, you could volunteer with us. You could always support us by buying our flowers. But yeah, we definitely are looking for ways to, partner with more believers and more, like-minded Christians. Because we really do think that, we have something to offer the larger body of Christ, and, we're here to help.
Are there some synergistic businesses, though, that you would love to see come join you on the South Side? Oh,
that's a good question. Never got that question before. Yeah, sure. Let's say there's a complementary business, like we do flowers. So let's say you have a very robust honey business, for example, right? If you had distribution, something that we're always looking for. So, if you have some sort of business that can distribute candles, because we do beeswax candles, our flowers could be distributed all across the country. So definitely partnering with a distribution business would really help us grow. There's definitely, I could see some synergistic partnerships with other kingdom aligned businesses.
Well, and I love that. And that's why I want to bring up that conversation, because Quilen and Hannah can't do this on their own. They've laid the groundwork. There's room for synergistic, missionpreneur-minded people to join you guys on the South Side. Get a hold of them on southsideblooms.com, or do you want, what website how do you want the people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just go to southsideblooms.com, and then you can, reach us there. Work for Jim. He went
That's
to
right.
Southside
You
Blooms.
use the contact
That's
page. We tested it out, and we know they answer their emails.
That's right. All right. Quilen and Hannah, and what a great story. What a great example. Love what you guys are doing. Hope we get to visit you guys someday when we get a chance to get back out on the road. We're not too far from Chicago. We spent a lot of time in Chicago. Plus the food and the pizza in Chicago is fantastic. The Chicago dogs and serious deep dish pizza. Quilen and Hannah,
Making
thank
him
you.
hungry.
That's right. Thanks for being an I Work. That's right. Thanks for being an I Work for Him today.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
You've been listening to I Work for Him with your host, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. Our workplace, it's our mission field, but ultimately, I work for him.
This episode of I Work for Him is brought to you by SaferNet, online at safernet.com.
If it's easy to use, you'll use it. What if you had one place to monitor all the internet activity of everyone in your family? Attention, I Work for Him listeners. Safeguard your business and family with SaferNet VPN. We deliver top-notch cybersecurity with a user-friendly approach. Protect sensitive data with a virtual private network and shield loved ones from harmful content with 84 internet filters. Choose SaferNet VPN for peace of mind. Get secured now. Sign up with safernet.com. That's safernet.com.
Did you know that God has a calling on your life? It's true. He's called you to bring Jesus to the world. For some, that may look like a pulpit or a foreign mission field, but for most of us, it looks like a construction site, a cubicle, a hospital, or a classroom. Wherever it is that you work, live, volunteer, and invest, that is your mission field. To learn more about integrating your faith into your work and retirement, check out our books, I Work for Him, She Works for Him, and I Retire for Him, by going to iworkforhim.com/bookstore.
Thanks for listening to the I Work For Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work For Him Nation, or subscribe to our weekly blog. You can also follow us on social media at I Work For Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's at I Work For Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.